What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode here, the Side Guys Football Forum. I'm one of your co-hosts, Norman Desai, joined as always by my good friend, my good buddy, the other half of the Side Guys, Mr. Tad Desai. And Tad, I can't make the jokes anymore. It seems like your hair is starting to grow in a little bit more, so it doesn't look as bad now.
Oh, see, I think this is just an excuse. I think you ran out of references.
Nah, I could have gone some other things. I could have gone, late 2000s Ryan Gosling. I could have gone
too niche.
Still, I could have gone there. Could have gone Christian Bale in American History X. No, sorry.
Ed Norton. I get that. You see, last time I got a buzz cut, not this time, but last time, I got that one a lot because of the beard.
There you go.
Yeah.
So there's a few other I got, but like I said, it's growing on me now. So
it's like a week away from being like peak level.
There you go. Exactly.
So next time I'm going to go 5.
There you go. I think that would be perfect there. So yeah, usually when you get your haircut, you usually give it like about a week, maybe a week and a half, and that's when it's like, oh yeah, this looks great.
Yeah, so, no, I can't wait. I
get you. And Tad, I'm pretty sure there's something else that you just can't wait for, and I know it doesn't necessarily start until the Labor Day weekend, but college football kicks off this weekend. As of recording, it is kicking off this weekend. Actually, our LAFB Network's own, the USC Trojans, will be playing their first game against my alumni school, my alma mater, San Jose State. So, I mean, that should be good for USC. I mean, I don't know what to expect from San Jose State. Hopefully, they just don't get shut out. That's what I was telling our good friend Alfred Rowe, friend of the podcast here. He's obviously former USC Trojan himself, does the Salute to Troy podcast on LFB Network. And I was like, what do you expect for this game? He was like, I don't think you guys are going to win. No, and I was like, I don't either. But I was just like, hopefully we don't get shut out. So, yeah, we'll see how the game goes out. But like I said, college football is actually happening this weekend.
It's here. I mean, I'm just a couple of weeks away. I mean, not so humble shout out, but my birthday is just a week away. And I didn't want to do anything to celebrate. And my friends were like, you need to do something to celebrate. I was like, fine, we'll just celebrate during the Colorado game because it's that close. Is the weekend after my birthday. So TCU, Colorado, I'm going to be turnt for that one.
There you go.
Turnt, lit, whatever the kids are saying now. Mid.
I don't think they're.
I will not be mid. I will not be mid. Yeah, I know what that one means.
Don't be mid, but I don't think they're saying turnt anymore. I think that one's
not saying turnt anymore.
I think that one's passed. Yeah.
See, all my kids do is talk behind my back while I'm, writing on the whiteboard, so I can't hear what they're saying anymore.
Yeah, that's the tough thing.
Damn it.
But Tad, obviously, with the college football season kicking off this weekend, unofficially, officially, however you want to label it there, it sort of brings to attention that the 2024 NFL draft season is now in play
it is.
As well.
Yeah, it is.
So obviously, before the season begins, we definitely want to give a quick preview as far as just some guys to sort of keep your eyes on as far as they could be, good performers. We're going to talk about some, defensive guys, some offensive guys, some group of 5 prospects as well. And, possibly some guys that can enter the conversation as far as being potential, first half of the first round type of players that they may not start there, but they may finish there for sure. So, I mean, we're going to give you a lot of different names. We're not going to go deep diving into any of these guys. It's very much just surface level as the season progresses, as we are the college football preview, like draft guys now, along with the fantasy football stuff. We'll be sprinkling in some of this draft content throughout the season too. That's what we'll be diving further into some of these prospects, some other prospects as well. And of course, once the football season is over, that's when we go full in to 2024 NFL draft stuff. So, I mean, Tad, today's episode is probably very exciting for you.
Well, it's exciting for 2 reasons. Of course, we're talking draft stuff, which is also very exciting, but you just kind of leaked a major announcement. We are now changing our name to the Desai Guys College Football Preview Draft Guys episode or show.
Oh, man, you ruined it.
I
finally
had a shot.
And you fumbled it. You totally pulled a Daniel Jones. open touchdown falling because of the turf.
That was Deshaun Jackson. I was running straight into that end zone, and I just threw it at the 2-yard line.
Oh my gosh!
Damn it!
You had it, dude.
Damn
You
it!
had it.
I cannot wait to watch this replay because I think you can see my eyes light up.
Yes.
On that.
No, I'm pretty
like,
sure
yes.
you were like, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it," and then you just. I'm sorry, buddy. That
hate
was
my
a good
life.
chance. You had a good chance there. Just totally.
It's okay. It will be another 2 years, and then I'll get my second chance.
We'll see. We'll see. You never know. It could happen sooner than later. But as we talked about, we definitely want to get into some college football preview with our draft special today. We're going to get into a lot of prospects as we talked about. But Tad, I think we need to kick off today's show specifically talking about two prospects in particular playing the same position. There's a lot of talk about who's going to go number one, who's going to go right after him. And that is, of course, the two quarterbacks in discussion here. Caleb Williams from USC, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, and Drake Maye, the quarterback from North Carolina. So, Tad, I think it'd be fun here if we sort of just discuss here. I think, Tad, you sort of have a little bit of a controversial take that, obviously with this discussion here, but let's sort of discuss both these guys here and sort of see just overall who can be that guy who could sort of separate from the other and sort of be that number one overall selection as far as the quarterback's concerned. Obviously, it's probably looking like Arizona will be the number one pick. Will they move on from Kyle Murray?
Remember last year, who did everyone think? No one predicted not Houston. Who was it Houston that traded to Carolina?
No, Chicago and Carolina.
Chicago. No one predicted Chicago having the first overall pick.
That's true.
Like first overall
also, pick. Tad, you brought it up, but Houston screwed it up. They had a chance to have the
number right. That's what.
Pick,
God.
And Lovie Smith decided to win that final game, and I don't know, decided to screw over his former franchise. I don't know what it was, but yeah, that's how they ended up with the second overall pick. Otherwise, they probably would have had the first overall pick.
He already had it because he's such an awesome coach, but Lovie Smith earned my eternal respect for that. Like
maybe he was trying to help his former team in Chicago. Like I really have no idea what
his
motivation there was. But yeah, they won that final game, which is how they ended up with the second overall pick as opposed to the first overall pick. But yeah, you're exactly right, Ted. We really don't know how the season is going to shake up in the NFL here in 2023. But like I said, just based on the talent level, it's looking like Arizona will probably be in that top half there.
They'll be in the running.
I'm leaning towards they'll probably be that first overall selection. So will they go quarterback there? It's hard to say. But if a different team decides to trade up with them, obviously they could get some more draft capital. So another team could get it there to take a quarterback first overall. But yeah, let's just dive right into the discussion here, Tad. Just obviously, who do you like more? Let's just ask that question right there. And just why do you like that said quarterback more?
I think the only reason you were bringing this up is because you want Al Rowe to snipe me from a bell tower.
Of course, because he's already ripping me because they're probably going to take San Jose State to school, literally. So I got to get some sort of like semblance of some coping here, so that like you deal with some of the the heat instead of me.
So for our listeners and viewers, the last time I brought up this take, Al literally put our podcast up on his big screen TV just so you could listen to it, and then raged on me for about, I don't know, like 4 hours.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick with it though. So in terms of, well, I'll clarify here because I don't think I did very good. I did listen back on that episode, and I think I did make it a little too confrontational between Caleb Williams and Drake Maye of like, well, this one's clearly better. They're both good. They're both amazing. Okay. I'm not saying Caleb Williams is bad. I'm just saying I like Drake Maye a little bit more. And here's why is Caleb mostly goes into skill set and size. So Drake Maye is standing at, I really hate these college measurements. We need to govern this somehow. Screw NIL. I don't care what's going on with that. We need to find a way to govern how they're weighed and how they're measured. I looked up a player that we were going to talk, or I'm going to talk about later on. He came in at 5'10" on his Wikipedia page. He's actually 6'4".
Yeah, I don't understand it either. Like, this is sort of what you sort of get that misconstrued information. But obviously, once we actually get into draft season, we get to the combine and sort of the pro days and all this stuff, you get more accurate measurements as far as people's height and weight is concerned. So, I mean, these are rough numbers, but clearly looks
rough
like we
numbers.
got some
So
egregious ones too, obviously. So
yeah,
we'll
so
take it with a grain of salt, people.
exactly. So Drake May stays 6'4", around 215, 220, 210, somewhere in that range. So he just has that physicality, that physical, frankly, for lack of a better word, body to withstand NFL hits compared to Caleb Williams. Now, I'll touch more on that later, but let's talk more about Drake May, because I think that's the biggest thing. It's like, I don't want to do the whole like Drake May compared to Caleb Williams. Let's just talk Drake. Because if I told you these stats just off the bat, like you'd be like, of course this guy's going to go first overall. So he had 45 total touchdowns and really his first full year as a starter last year, and only 7 interceptions. So that was, this stat blew my mind. That was also done behind one of the worst offensive lines in college football. Pro Football Focus ranked UNC's offensive line as the 76th best in college football last year. That dude got pressured more than most people, like most major program quarterbacks do in 2 seasons. And yet he did not turn over the ball that often. And so I think you look at what he does as a passer. He had a 97.5 deep passer rating. And here's a crazy stat for you, Mer. And I'm going to go briefly back to the Caleb versus Drake May thing. Okay. Drake May had 45 big-time throws, according to Pro Football Focus. You know what? Let's play it. Over under for Caleb Williams, 15 big-time throws.
I'm going to say under.
You are correct. Wow, you're getting better.
Slowly. I'm learning slowly.
Slowly but surely, you are killing this game.
Well, I'll also say that helped because I did notes on both players as well, so I kind of remember that one. So that's kind of cheated a little there.
No, that's fair. So yes, Caleb Williams only had 10 big-time throws, which is still good. Don't get me wrong, but that's kind of my whole.
Dad, really quick, do you have the definition of a big-time throw for our listeners and viewers?
Definition is, I don't have the exact definition, but roughly a big-time throw is any connected pass over 35 yards that has some metric of accuracy. So basically, it's not like, oh, this receiver made a crazy catch. That does not benefit that stat. It is like, okay, is a good throw past some X amount of yards, which is definitely more than 20. Another thing, though, is, and so many people are saying this and all the scouting reports and everything I'm reading, and they're not wrong. But they're also not right, where they say this is pocket passer versus scrambler. Kind of. But I feel like that's really pigeonholing, frankly, both of them. Caleb Williams is not just a scrambler. He is a very good thrower as well. And on the flip side of that, Drake May is not just a pocket passer who, like, I feel like when people say that, like, oh, he's a pocket passer, you imagine like a Peyton Manning or a Phillip Rivers or someone like that who could barely move in the pocket, maybe a Tom Brady. I'm sure that's about to trigger a lot of people. But my point being is,
I define him as a pocket passer, 100%.
You would, but then you get all these idiots being like, but his rushing stats, his rushing touchdown numbers, those were all QB sneaks. Fuck off. Point being, though, is Drake May is also a really good runner. He rushed for just under 700 yards last year. And like I said, 38 passing touchdowns, 7 rushing touchdowns. If I did my math correct, that is 45 total touchdowns. Did I do my math right?
Yeah, you got that right.
Whoa, upset alert there. So my entire point being is, I think that Drake May is just as good as Caleb Williams. So why do I give him the nod? It is their play style, and it is this size. So Caleb Williams, I'm not even joking, I looked this up, and again, these are the school measurements. So chances are he's going to come in a little under on all of these. He is 6'1", which is the same height as Lamar Jackson. He is 215, which is just 5 pounds lower than Lamar Jackson. He is more of a runner. He's not just a runner, but he is more of a runner than Drake May is, which means that I have major durability concerns for him. I know people are moving towards the scrambling quarterbacks, but think about Mahomes, think about Allen, think about guys like that. Those are the guys that tend to last throughout the entire season, and they are not run-first quarterbacks or run-heavy. I'll say that, run-heavy quarterback. So the only reason I'm giving Maye the nod over Williams is durability concerns. I think and that's why I don't think Carolina, I don't think, well, that would be a real upset. I don't think Arizona is going to take Caleb Williams if he is there, because they are basically just landing themselves in the same trap they just got out of with Kyler Murray never being healthy. I have major durability concerns about Caleb Williams. I think he's a great quarterback. I think if he can stay healthy, he's going to make me look like a fucking moron. But I have high doubts on that former part.
Everything you said makes a ton of sense. I think there's no argument there.
That's what makes a good podcast.
But I think what I sort of am leaning towards, and maybe a lot of other people are leaning towards, is just that while Drake May is not going to be sort of in that class of being a pocket passer, that is where he is most gifted at. Because one of the things that I've sort of seen with the brief tape that I've seen, obviously we're going to dive into it a little bit further as the season prolongs here, is that when he's out of the pocket and he needs to throw on the run, or he needs to sort of be a sort of mobile quarterback as well, like I said, be a mobile quarterback. So not just running, but mobile in a sense that throwing the ball down the field. That's where his accuracy sort of dips a lot. So that's where sort of Caleb Williams sort of gets that advantage, where it's like you're saying, he's a little bit more of a scrambler. He could make every sort of off-platform throw. If he gets the time in the pocket, he could dice you up that way. If he needs to move outside the pocket and throw on the run, throw a bootleg, whatever it is, he is still very gifted at that aspect as well. So when you have that sort of improvisation in your quarterback, that sort of gives your offense an extra element. Now, exactly like you said, if he's weighing sort of around the same measurables as Lamar Jackson, those durability concerns definitely concern me, because, yeah, with that improvisation, now you're being more susceptible to defenders coming out, laying on those cheap hits or whatever. They don't always get called. Sometimes they do, but they don't always get called. I know sort of like a lot of people argued that they've been a little bit more generous with the roughing the passer calls in the NFL, but there are a lot of times that defenders can push them and sort of get away with some of these rougher shots.
Sir, if you're beyond the line of scrimmage.
Exactly, that too, especially if you're running that way. So I 100% agree with that. So, but I think just you sort of need to take that, because we saw this with Russell Wilson a lot too, where it's in his prime in Seattle. We'll see what happens with Sean Payton here in Denver. But when he was in prime in Seattle, he was able to sort of get out of the pocket. He was able to scramble around. He's able to make these plays that all of a sudden move Seattle down the field like 40 or 50 yards because of, like you said, those sort of big plays. Now, I know you sort of said there's a certain metric as far as how open the wide receiver is, but the fact that he's able to buy that much time and get the ball down the field to a receiver to sort of make these plays open, that gives your offense a lot more momentum. It gets the crowd behind you if you're playing at home, obviously. It just sort of sparks your offense to sort of like, okay, we got this guy who's willing to do whatever it takes, hold on to the ball a little bit longer to make plays. So that's what I sort of like Caleb Williams a little bit more. Just the fact that he's got that improvisational sort of skill set. He's got the durability concerns, but I also want to say that he's got a lot of grit too, because you have to remember in that very last game of the season last year.
Whoa. No. Sorry. No, go ahead. Sorry.
I can't remember
I have
which
a rant
game it was.
about this.
I want to say it was either the bowl game or it was the Pac-12 championship game.
It was the Pac-12 championship game. Okay. I know exactly where you're going with this.
Okay, but he obviously hurt his knee, and he was sort of coming off the sideline. He was limping, but he was able to grit through that entire game, and he definitely showed a lot of effort, almost pulling USC all the way back to win that game, obviously. But ultimately, they unfortunately fell short there. But just that sort of speaks to the fact that it's like, if you're sort of saying that he has durability concerns, he's able to play through it and play in sort of these high leverage situations where you need your quarterback out there. He's not going to pull a Jay Cutler in the NFC Championship game and not show up for your team. So we'll see exactly what happens here throughout this entire career, but just everything that I've sort of seen with Caleb Williams, just like I said, just the improvisation aspect, just being able to make any throw that he wants, the mobility aspect, he can run when he needs to. And just like you said, like you're sort of pigeoning, people are pigeonholing Drake May as sort of that pocket passer and Caleb Williams as a scrambler. Well, he's not really that much of a scrambler. Can he make plays with these legs?
That's a great point.
Can he make plays with his legs? Absolutely. But I sort of likened this to sort of like a Russell Wilson or a Deshaun Watson, where it's like they want to dice you up in the pocket, but their offensive lines were not all that great. You look at USC's offensive line; they were not all that great. They lost 3 starters heading into the 2023 season, so we're going to see how they're going to hold up for Caleb Williams, this season as well. So it's like, will he be able to sort of be that improvisation guy and be able to make the same plays that he was last season that won him a Heisman Trophy? So that's sort of a little bit concerning for sure, is the durability there and the improvisation there. But overall, it's like I really like Drake Bay, but I think I'm almost falling in love with Caleb Williams.
Is he related to Michael Bay?
Drake May, my mistake there.
Finally,
Like I said,
yes.
it may happen sooner than you think. So
No, I agree with you. I think, and look, I mean, that's probably going to be the title of this video is, Caleb Williams versus Drake May. And I think we're just so used to seeing that stuff in like, boxing match and stuff that one has to be the winner, one has to be the loser. Not really. Look at what was that? The 04 draft with Eli, Phillip, and Big Ben. I mean, all of those guys worked out. So it's
Yep.
not like you can, it's not just because there's a controversy at the top of who's better means they're all the one's gonna suck, one's gonna rock. I really do think, like I said, exactly what, and like you said as well, is Caleb Williams is also getting pigeonholed as a rusher, and I think that there's a very good chance both these guys work out. It's and plus, like I'm going way back to the beginning of this episode, it may just come down to who's picking first. What system are they going to go into? That may be the ultimate decider. And if Caleb Williams was, this is a big ass, but if he was 3 to 5 inches taller, put on another 10 pounds, I would be all aboard the Caleb Williams train. I think Caleb Williams is more talented. I think Drake May is slightly less talented, but more built for the game.
I think the one thing, and we'll sort of close the conversation here because obviously we need to wait for the entire season to play out to see if they can separate from each other. But one thing that I'll sort of like give as a negative to Caleb Williams as well is just that we've seen quarterbacks under Lincoln Riley back at Oklahoma,
That's
and
a
now
great
we're
point.
sort of seeing it here at USC. So is he going to follow that trend of your Baker Mayfields, of your Kyler Murrays, of those types of quarterbacks where it's like they look good at times, but based on where they went in the draft, it's sort of like, did the expectations meet what you're sort of expect? Well, did you meet the expectations by drafting this guy number 1 overall? And that's sort of where we're trending with Caleb Williams. So it's like, is it a product of the system, or is this guy really going to buck that trend and be the guy that everybody is sort of seeing out there? So that's the one thing I'll throw out there with Caleb Williams. So we'll see exactly how it all plays out there. But just, yeah, I think like you said, Ted, it's just depending on which type of quarterback you like more. Both these guys are going to be stars at the next level, I think.
I agree. I think, yeah. I mean, they're both really good. There's no need, and I mean, they're not the only two in this class either. Like this is this honest God. Like it was funny. I was thinking back to last year's draft right before we went live, and thank you for this vote, confidence, Chauncey. But Chauncey said not in us, but in the draft where you and I are really excited. It's the first live stream we're leading, and Chauncey goes, "I feel like this draft is kind of boring." It's like
that's the way to kickstart it, of course.
like, thanks, man.
Well,
but,
in fairness, Chauncey has definitely said many times that he is not a draft expert by any means, so that was just his opinion.
So. Everyone's entitled to one. But I think that, okay, if you thought last year was boring, this year is so insanely talented. Like oh my God, April cannot get here soon enough, partially because that means the school year is almost over.
For you, for sure. And Ted, so obviously we stopped our conversation here temporarily about Drake May, Caleb Williams, quarterbacks to an extent here, but let's sort of get into a lot of these other players because, like you said, this class should definitely be a lot more exciting than last year's class. So, I mean, let's start here, Ted, just offensive skill guys. So, your running backs, your wide receivers, your tight ends. So, just like, who are some guys that you think could be top level guys that you think are just going to be really good? And just who are some sleepers that may sneak into the conversations being some late round steals?
Okay, so apologies if I mispronounce this. Ohio State fans, please do not come after me. Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Obviously, you and I are not going to touch on Marvin Harrison Jr. He's good.
Yeah.
Everybody in the world knows that, so
Fair.
we're not going to waste showtime talking about that. But, and this is actually where I apologize if I mispronounce this. Emeka Ibuka?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Got that one right there.
That's going to be a struggle for me all season. But, yeah, I mean,
the only time you got it right.
If Marvin Harrison Jr. wasn't there, excuse me, if he wasn't, that's going to be a running joke now. So bad it's good. But anyway, is like this guy, I was shocked because I kind of, not that his stats are bad, but I kind of saw his stats. I'm like, okay, they're good, but they're not like blowing me away. What's the hype with this guy? I'm like, oh, you're a monster. Once I started watching this tape, like that dude for a 6'1" receiver is way too physical. Like he should not be that aggressive, but he is, and somehow he lasts. Like he has very little injury history. And what I love the most about him is like he has all the attributes there as well. And I'm going to do this a couple times. I swear to God, I'm not doing this on purpose. But, Ohio State receiver wearing number 2 kind of reminded me of a more physical Chris Olave.
Okay.
Slower too. He's a little slower than Chris Olave. Olave ran like what, like a 4.3 or something like that. And Buka,
Yep. Got it right.
Double E. You know what? That's what I'm gonna call him. Double E. Double E ran a 4.4 reportedly. So I love him. I think that he is in any other draft that was less talented, he'd be a lot of top 10 pick. Now it's a little bit of a question. The other guy at the what I would call the top, and the reason I'm putting it in quotes is because I'm double dipping at receiver. There's Marvin Harrison Jr., Ibuka, and for the number 3 spot, there's like a 6-man race as it
There's a
stands
lot of
right now
guys in the
before the
picture there.
season.
Yep.
It is crazy. This is the man I think who's going to win. Troy Franklin, the receiver out of Oregon.
Okay. Okay.
I watch him. He is, and I try to stay away from this word as much as possible, but it fits him too well. He is very raw, but he has the hands and he has the body control where I'm like, okay, this dude's in it. And he's standing at 6'3", 170. So he's got the size too. He needs to add a little bit of bulk, but he can do it. Plus, I think his stats with Bo Nix this year are just going to be ridiculous. So I really like Troy Franklin the more I look at him. The biggest word I have for him is just pure upside. For sleepers, I got this is a name I'm going to bring up later, and this is also the name of the man who gave me a goddamn near heart attack at the Fiesta Bowl. His name is Donovan Edwards. He is the other running back at Michigan. That guy is so damn good, and here's what it's not a perfect comparison, I'll admit, but he reminds me a lot of Le'Veon Bell and the way that like he will literally like hang out behind the offensive line for so long. You're like, what the hell are you doing? And then it'll just burst off for like 30 yards. So yeah, his patience, his field vision are amazing. Everything else is good, not great. Hence why he's being slept on. But that could be like a mid-round steal in this year's draft. My final offensive sleeper is Cade Stover, at the tight end at Ohio State. Remember, I looked this up. This is why I looked up his height. This is the guy I was talking about earlier because I was watching his tape. I'm like, God, this looks familiar. I literally had to check the title. I was like, I'm not rewatching a video I watched a couple months ago because Cade Stover is Dalton Kincaid 2.0.
There you go. Okay.
He is, and here's the crazy thing. So this is why I looked up his height. He has the same height as Dalton Kincaid. He is 5 pounds lighter than Dalton Kincaid. And Ohio State uses him the exact same way Utah used Dalton Kincaid, in which case whenever he's a tight end or his receiver, he almost never lines up next to the line. He's almost always out wide. And he's lacking a little bit of top end speed, and there are a couple of reasons. His stats haven't been that great. That's why he's slipping, given current projections to the 3rd or 4th round. I think if he breaks out this year, he could end up being a late 1st round pick.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. So I'm going to run through mines pretty quick here. So you're talking about the tight end position. I'm going to start at the very top of the tight end position in this year's draft class. Brock Bowers, the tight end at the University of Georgia.
Fuck that guy.
Easily the best tight end on the board. And I think he's just got an impressive skill set that's going to translate so well to the next level. The only thing that I can sort of see that could be a problem that I think he can improve in his last year, most likely here at Georgia, is that he needs to improve on just his blocking skills. So he's a very gifted receiver. He's built like a wide receiver as well. So he's not got that. He doesn't have that big body as a tight end. So he's more of that receiving threat. So if he can improve his blocking skills in this final season, I think for sure he's a lock to be the first tight end off the board. I think even if he does it, he's the first tight end off the board for sure. So he's got a lot of great talent, going to be a great piece at the next level. The running back position, I'm going to go with Raheem Sanders, out of the University of Arkansas. Just arguably, I mean, just
this
like
guy's good.
So looking at different running backs, obviously we're going to wait to see how this draft class separates itself. But right now, a lot of people are saying that he is the best running back in this year's draft class. I mean, he's just got that great dual threat ability that he brings to the Razorback offense. The only thing that I can sort of see as a problem is that instead of trying to avoid contact to sort of make those big plays, he's always looking to sort of truck the defender and just sort of power through a lot of guys, show his power and show his sort of ability to sort of get through defenders. So a lot of times that can sort of lead to a lot of a traffic jam, and that could cause a lot of trouble as far as him being piled up on then, and that could possibly lead to some injuries depending on who lands on him, obviously. But just if he's able to sort of avoid those more often and sort of go for where the open space is, that could totally benefit him and be sort of that all every down back that you sort of want as far as being that power guy, as well as that speed guy, as well as that home run threat guy as well.
Also known as the LeGarrette Blunt syndrome.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true. Like impressive. There's a
Speaking
lot of
of
them
injuries, speaking of injuries,
and it looked impressive. There are times where he absolutely demolishes a guy and then he keeps going, but there's a lot of times where that defenders were able to stick with him and bring him down. So just like you need to be able to sort of avoid those as well. So yeah, Raheem Sanders got some time to work out there. I'm gonna go with my sleepers here. You're talking about receivers. I think this guy could slip into maybe the second round based on where he's currently projected. This is Johnny Wilson, the wide receiver out of Florida
yet
State.
another guy in that 5-man race.
And it's insane because you look at his measurables 6'7",
That's ridiculous.
235 pounds. Like this guy is a physical freak at the wide receiver position. He's just got great natural abilities to sort of track the ball downfield. He's got good route running abilities. But that's the big problem with Johnny Wilson that hopefully he can improve in his next season here at Florida State. Everything is good, but nothing is great. There's some things that he could improve on that can make him a great wide receiver as far as his route running, as far as his catching, as far as his blocking is concerned as well. But a lot of potential there with Johnny Wilson. Then the other guy, I know you already brought Bishop running back. I'm bringing up the other one. The guy that was sort of highly talked about last year, unfortunately dealt with the knee injury that prevented him from going out the draft. He stayed for one more year. That's Blake Corum. I think he's got a lot of talent. Unfortunately, like I said, that knee injury prevented him from entering last year's draft. I think entering this year, he could sort of put the injuries behind him and sort of prove that he still has that skill set that he displayed last year. This year now, I think he'll be one of the top running backs off the board for sure.
Corum's one of those tough things, and this is why I think Donovan Edwards is actually one of my sleepers, because I think he's, could rise up. I define a sleeper as a guy that is really good that could rise up boards. I don't know what your definition is, but not saying yours is wrong, but I'm just saying we may have two different definitions. But I think that if Corum is a little slow coming back, Donovan Edwards may finally have a shot at being the number one guy in Michigan, because if he was with anybody else, like any other team, he'd be, right up there with Corum, where it's like he could go first, he could go second, but there's no way he's going later than third. And Edwards, for whatever reason, decided to stay. And I do wonder if the injury was why.
It could be very much the case for sure. But yeah, especially with running backs sort of being quote unquote devalued, both these guys, maybe there's not a chance. I don't know if there's going to be a chance that they'll take it in the first round, but it's definitely going to be who's going to separate as far as being that first running back off the board in the second round on day 2 for sure. So Tad, we talked a lot about the offensive players, including that quarterback conversation between Drake Maye and Caleb Williams. Let's get to the other side of the ball. Let's talk about some defensive players here. So same factors here. Let's talk about some guys that we like as far as being the top of the board, and then some sleepers that could possibly slip in and be some sneaky good additions to any squad in the NFL.
So, you know me, I like the really aggressive guys. And so I picked 2 super aggressive guys that are currently projected to be first round picks. The first one, I mean, I'll say this phrase later, but it is the perfect summary of his game. And that's Javon Bullard, who is a cornerback safety hybrid at Georgia. This dude, and this is the phrase I was mentioning, is a heat-seeking missile back there. He reminds me of a smarter Bob Sanders. Not saying Bob Sanders was stupid, but the problem was Bob Sanders launched himself around like a rocket, and that was what got him hurt. This guy plays less aggressive than that, but still is super aggressive. And honestly, just for saying he plays less aggressive, I'm kind of scared he's going to bust through my wall and kill me right now. This guy is insane. As again, corner/safety last year, he had 3.5 sacks, 2 picks, and 7 tackles for a loss.
Impressive.
He's 5'10". It's not fair. So I think the biggest thing with him is, where does he line up? Is he a really short safety? Do you line him up at corner and hope that, his, height doesn't play that much of a role? But I think that just someone with that pure aggressiveness mixed with that pure production on the best college football team I have ever seen. Yeah, take that, Alabama. I think that this dude is going to be an absolute stud, but because of his size, because of the tweener stuff, he is going to slip in the draft, and that is going to be the Derwin James of this year's draft. I'm calling that right now. The other player I really like is Jeremiah Trotter. Now, I'm sure you remember this. I should say this. Jeremiah Trotter Jr.
Yep, that's the qualifier.
His dad was an all-pro linebacker for the Philadelphia Eagles. What was that, early 2000s?
Early 2000s. He played a little bit with Washington as well, but just such a dominant piece.
Do not tell me his dad and London Fletcher were on the same team.
I think they were. I want to say they were.
My God. Man, Dan Snyder was a bad owner. How do you not win with that?
I'm gonna double
Anyway,
check as you give your take here, but
okay,
yeah,
yeah, no,
pretty
please
sure that
double
they
check
were.
that because that would be absolutely insane. But let me tell you, talk about Junior now, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. You can tell his dad was all pro because that dude just has natural instincts. I know that is another draft cliche, but like, good God, that man in coverage is crazy. I say man, and I'm about 6 years older than him because he could kill me with his left hand if he wanted to. He is so good in coverage. He has, I'm not going to say he's like, there's a difference between guys like Bullard who are just like, oh my God, they're just gunning for this guy. He is smart. And this is what I want to see on my middle linebackers is he is smart. He is patient. He is running around the field looking for the ball until he gets it. And here's the best part of is I was wondering, I'm like, why is he not being talked about as like an unquestioned number 15 overall pick? So I looked at some scouting reports in there with him. And the biggest, I put this in quotes, knock on his game is that Trotter has trouble getting off the offensive line. So he may not be a great blitzing middle linebacker. He had 12 tackles for a loss and 6.5 sacks last season. If that is trouble for a middle linebacker, I will gladly take that. Absolutely. Like I dream somehow the Colts end up landing a first round pick from all this Jonathan Taylor bullshit. And we spend one on a receiver and one on Trotter. Because could you imagine Trotter and Shaq Leonard? Sorry. Yeah, Shaq Leonard. I always get that in this previous
it is
one.
Shaq Leonard out,
yeah,
not
thank
Darius
you.
Leonard.
Yeah, thank you. Those two like next to each other, that would be London Fletcher and Jeremiah Trotter Sr. right there. So I love it's very hard for me to say. So no, I think Trotter is by many ranked as the best middle linebacker in this year's draft. And I honest to God think he is deserving of top 10 consideration. He's not going to go in the top 10 unless somebody reaches, but he should.
You want to go into your sleepers now, or should
No,
I?
I was wondering, do you have the Trotter Fletcher news?
Yeah, I have the information.
Okay,
here.
no, that's what I was waiting for.
Unfortunately, he didn't play with London Fletcher. That was before his time. He only played 2 seasons in Washington, but he did play with another really good linebacker at that time. I don't know if you remember him, but LeVar Arrington was a really good linebacker for Washington.
I thought he was a safety.
Nope, he was a linebacker as well. So yeah, the two of them played together for 2 seasons at Washington. But yeah, not London Fletcher, but 2 really good linebackers paired together. Jeremiah Trotter, LeVar Arrington.
For a second there, I thought you were going to go. He played for with a really good safety, Adam Archuleta. And I was going to tell you go fuck yourself. I hate Adam Archuleta. One of the thousands of reasons the Rams moved out of St. Louis because he sucked. Him and Ty Hill, you remember him?
I remember Ty Hill. Yeah,
Ty Hill. God, I've never seen a corner. That dude gets burned more than Trayvon Diggs. Anyway, going to my sleepers. I mean, remember, you knew I had to go for it. Josh Newton, the cornerback out of TCU.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Come on, I had to. But I swear, this is partially for the bit of like me being a homer, but I actually do think that he has a real potential to go in the top 3, even though he's currently projected as a 5th round pick. I mean, he is super aggressive. He is, and it was funny, again, with these scouting reports, it's very clearly early scouting reports from these people because they were like, oh, he's a zone coverage only corner. The hell he is. That man is more aggressive than anyone else on that defense in press man coverage. Now, here's the problem. When he's playing off press, his back pedal, not great. I'll admit that. So he plays a little stiff. He may actually be, in fact, a little too aggressive. A lot of the plays I see him make, I'm like, yeah, that'd be a PI in the NFL. So there are definitely things to work on, but I think he is the very definition of developmental and potential. The other sleeper I have is Cedric Gray, the linebacker out of North Carolina. I do not know how this guy is not in late first round, early second round consideration. He had, get this, 145 combined tackles last year.
Wow.
12 tackles for a loss, 2 interceptions, and 3 forced fumbles. He is absolutely a force of nature, and I think that he will be one of the fastest risers as the combine process moves on.
Yeah, no, those are all great sneaky prospects. And I'm going to get to mine here. And so I'm going to start at the top here with the edge rusher out of Florida State, Jared Verse. A lot of people are talking about this guy being one of the best, if not the best defensive player in this year's draft class. The only thing that I sort of worry about is just, is last year a fluke? Like, can he replicate what he did last year and sort of prove it again this year? Because Tad, I don't know if you know, but he transferred from the University of Albany. So last year was the first year that he played at Florida State, played at an
I
FBS
did not know
school.
that.
So that's sort of a big thing, because whether last year is just he was able to catch everybody off guard, and now heading into this season, people know what to expect from him and sort of can be able to game plan him for it better, or is he the real deal and he'll be able to do it again this season? So that's the only thing that worries me a little bit about Jared Verse, excuse me, that could drop him down a little bit. I think he's still a first rounder, but just he may not go as high as a lot of people are projecting right now.
That reminds me a lot of another Florida State defensive end, Jesus Christ, Jermaine Johnson, who also had similar concerns of like, okay, he's a 1-year wonder, and that caused him to slip to where the Jets get him like 12. And I mean, look at that though, is like that was an absolute steal for him. By the way, he had a very nice little like montage on Hard Knocks.
There you go. There you go. So I got to go to the defensive back position. I'm going to go with the Kool-Aid McKinstry. I think probably one of the coolest names.
You stole this one from me.
Out of the University of Alabama, just an instinctive quarter. I mean, he's very adept at reading the opposing receiver's route and be able to mimic it and totally stay with the receiver and be able to defend so much better because of just being able to understand where the receiver is going and be able to stop the receiver doing whatever he wants to do, right? Has a chance to be the best quarter in this year's draft class. I mean, he already has one of the best names, so you can follow it up by being one of the best quarters as well. I think he just needs to continue doing what he's already doing, improve on just his recognition skills to an extent, and being a little bit more physical with his hands. I think that was the only things I sort of saw as far as can be improvements, but overall, great skill set. He's going to be a great player at the next level. Going to my sleepers here, I'm going to bring up a guy at UCLA here, Tad, with LAFB Network. I'm going to talk about Laitu Latu, the linebacker from UCLA. Just a gifted linebacker at the Mike linebacker position, so the middle linebacker position, but he can also be brought in to come after you in the pass rush as well, bring down the ball carrier for tackles for loss, sort of be that utility guy. So kind of like a Shaq Leonard, sort of like a Fred Warner with San Francisco, where it's like not only can they play the linebacker position and be that field general for you on the defensive side of the ball, but if he needed to come in and be a pass rusher too, he can absolutely do that as well. The only thing that I'll say that he needs to improve on is that he plays with his instincts a little bit too much. So he sort of needs to develop a little bit more as far as just recognizing the plays and being a little bit more understanding about everything that's going around him to make sure that he can make the smart plays instead of just relying on pure instincts and sort of lucking into a play instead of actually knowing what is going on. So that's one of the big things with him that he can improve on heading into this year.
Real quick on him, I love that that's your analysis, because you want to know who he kind of, again, not saying this is the perfect comparison, but you want to know who he kind of reminds me of, and I'm blanking on his name, of course, as soon as I say it.
Fantastic.
Oh, man. Not Miles Murphy. I know that's wrong. Not the Clemson defensive end that you and I both agreed would do the exact same thing, where he was just rabid going to the backfield, and then he would just be like, where's the quarterback?
Brian Breeze?
No, it wasn't Brian Brees. It was the other one. What's the other one that went in the first round?
Blanking on him too.
See, okay, so we'll look at that up. That's real. Clearly, we are like ejecting all the 2023 info.
We're not moving on to 2024.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, no, I completely agree with that. It's like he's just such a freak athlete that's just like, okay, but relax.
Yeah.
And exactly. So, and another thing, I'm sorry, I was like half listening because I was trying to remember this guy's name. 10.5 sacks last year in the Pac-12 against some very good offensive lines. I know you said, USC's offensive line wasn't great, but like they were still good enough where that's a very, very impressive stat right there. So he's only being really considered as a second round pick from what I saw, which is shocking.
All right, so Tad, while you look up that name for us, I'm going to get to my other sleeper pick here on the defensive side. The defensive tackle out of Cincinnati, Dante Corleone. So he's currently ranked as one of PFF's top 10 defensive tackles, and just absolute physical freak. Like, I mean,
you're breaking my heart.
He's absolutely just a physical guy. I mean, he's just got a great blend of speed and then also size. I mean, he's one of those guys that's like, obviously he could defend the run because of his size and his ability to sort of get off the block. but also he's got some nifty moves. He's got the speed. He's got the lateral quickness to get by the offensive lineman and get to the backfield to stop the ball carriers, as well as be effective in the pass rush as well. So, I mean, this guy can sort of be that utility guy. One of the things that he just needs to improve on is his hand skills. He's not as good at sort of pushing defenders off, pushing offenders off, I should say specifically. And also like his snap off the ball recognition, that it's not as sharp as it needs to be. So these are a few things that he can improve heading into this year. But a lot of people are projecting this guy to be a mid third round, possibly early fourth round guy. But with the skill set that he has and the blend of just size and speed, and if he could sort of have a good season this year, he could easily shoot up to the second round as far as being a very talented piece on anybody's defensive line there. So, Tab, were you able to get that name for us?
Miles Murphy, 28th pick by the Cincinnati Bengals.
Miles Murphy. There you go. There you go.
That doesn't feel right for some reason.
Yeah, no, I get you. I get you. So, Tab, we're going to close out this episode. I know a lot of the conversation goes to some of these bigger schools like your Georgias, your Alabamas, your Clemsons, your, Pac-12, so USC, to an extent too. But just let's sort of give the other schools a little bit of recognition here. Your group of 5 schools, or your non-Power 5 conferences. Let's highlight some prospects in those conferences, in those schools. Like, who are some guys that can sort of make a name to themselves this season and in the draft process heading into next year's draft?
So the first one I'll bring up is because I've been hearing this guy's name since last year. He was getting a little bit no one thought he would declare last year, but people were like, this is a guy to look out for. And that is Torrey Horton, who is a receiver out of Colorado State. And, I'll admit, before prepping for this episode, I read about him a little bit. I didn't really watch any of his tape. And the more I watch him, I'm like, okay, I see the promise here. I'm not going to say he's like amazing. He's the top sleeper, but he just makes things look so damn easy. It's like he glides. He glides is the best,
Nice.
adjective I can come up with, or verb. Okay. I guess it's a verb. He's one of those speedsters who his route running needs a lot of work because he doesn't really do any. He just kind of runs and he finds himself open. I swear to God, it's not just because he wears the number 14 and he's tall and skinny. Just the way he plays reminds me a lot of George Pickens. So the only thing of those is production's a little lower than you prefer for someone at that level. But he isn't, a player to keep an eye out on. This next guy, I absolutely am obsessed with him. And I need to find his tape. So help me God, I will email this athletic department for tape of him because I need to know. Because I can't find anything except for his highlight videos. And highlight videos is not good dependable tape.
Yeah.
But you can tell from like a lame highlight video of like, okay, this is just your average receiver to like a guy where like, oh my God. And plus, I mean, we're talking small school NFL draft. A South Dakota State player had to make this list.
Oh yeah. I like to think
he absolutely did. And that is Isaiah Davis, the running back. And look, I'm not going to lie. I did the thing. The first play on his highlight video, the first one I watched, because I watched multiple, is it's a white guy wearing number 22 in the shotgun. They hand it off. He breaks off a massive run untouched for like 6 yards. I'm like, okay, so we got McCaffrey. I did the thing. But anyway,
of course,
the very next play on the highlight drive, they do the same thing. Shotgun, handoff, runs up the middle. But this time, I'm still trying to find like an NFL comparison in my head because like his body, he's not the biggest guy in the world, but like people, it's one of those things where they're just like bouncing off him. And I just don't it's not quite Barry Sanders because he kind of avoided people, but almost, I want to say like Adrian Pearson. That's too much hype, but like, it's one of those things where like, you just don't understand how those tackles aren't being made. And that's why I want to see this guy's tape, because is that just his best plays or is that actually what he's normally like? Because if that's normally what he's like, I'm telling you, man, from what I've seen, he's got the it factor. This guy could be my new draft crush that our listeners are so sick of come April. And then he slips in the 6th round, just like Dwayne McBride. But I'm telling you, if what I find is consistent, this guy is special. And I'm telling you, he could be the best sleeper in next year's draft. Isaiah Davis, look it up.
Gotcha. No, I actually remember Isaiah Davis now that you brought it up here with South Dakota State. Because I remember we're watching tape of Tucker Kraft, the tight end from South Dakota State.
Oh,
I remember
we did talk about that, didn't we?
And I remember him making some blocks, obviously, in the offense, obviously, for South Dakota State. And I remember the running back going, and I was like, oh, this running back actually has got some skills. But I was focusing more on Tucker
On
Kraft. But
Kraft,
now
yeah.
that you're sort of bringing this up here, it's sort of like bring back some memories as far as like I do remember seeing some flashes. But yeah, obviously, we'll need to see some full on tape to see if like you said, just everything that you're sort of laying out about him, just being able to avoid tackles by just running through him or whatever it is, just people missing tackles on him,
Not even
whether that's
missing,
true or whether
literally
it's
like
like, yeah,
jumping on him and for like some inexplicable reason, just bouncing right off. It's like they
there you
had
go.
the old Halo 3 shield around him.
It's possible. It's possible. So yeah,
God, that's a
hopefully we can
dated
watch some more tape.
reference.
Yeah,
Good
that's
Lord.
100% data reference there. So all right, so you got two sleepers there, two sorry, not two sleepers, but just two non-power five prospects for you. I'm gonna give you a couple here. We're gonna go through them relatively quickly. So you're talking about Jeremiah Trotter Jr. about having a very good very famous father who definitely had a sensational career at the NFL level. I'm gonna talk about Frank Gore Jr.
Oh,
out of
fuck,
Southern
we're old.
Mississippi, talking about his dad. Obviously, huge fan of Frank Gore, obviously making a huge career for himself with the Niners. Obviously, played for Indianapolis Colts as well, played for the Dolphins a little bit too, but just what a fantastic runner. Very patient. He's able to just sort of stick his foot in the ground and make it wherever the hole is, be patient enough to find it. And once he hits it, he is gone. He's got the speed, he's got that sort of missed tackle ability too. And all of that I'm seeing in his son. Like, I mean, Frank Gore Jr. sort of I see all of that
I
as
haven't
well.
watched any of his tape. So is he actually good, or is this like
No, I've seen a lot of his highlights from last year, and obviously I'm going to watch a lot of his tape this year as we sort of go through the process. But the one thing I'll say that Frank Gore Jr. has over his dad is that he's got a little bit more speed than his dad does.
well,
So
I mean, so do we.
sure. So I think definitely
Frank
that
Gore,
blend.
compiler.
Oh, yeah. Okay, sure, sure. But just what I see with Frank Gore Jr., just the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Like, I mean, this guy's got all the pedigree that you had with Frank Gore Sr., and now you're getting a Frank Gore Jr. He's going to be an excellent piece at the next level for any offense. I'm going to go to the defensive backs, the quarterback position, the University of Toledo, Quinyon Mitchell. So, I mean, this guy is just an excellent size, a prototypical size for a quarter. He's coming in at 6 foot, roughly 200. Obviously, take that with the greatest salt based on measurements at your various schools, obviously. But just aggressive quarter. He's got a nose for the football. He had a ton of pass deflections last year. Tad, he recorded a 4 interception game last year against Northern Illinois, and he had 13 pass deflections in that same game. Like, I don't know why they kept testing him, but he kept proving him wrong. He just had a sensational game. This guy
Hold on,
clearly has
hold on. My headphones are going wrong. You said game, you meant season.
no game. In one game, he had 4 interceptions and 13 pass deflections. I have no idea why they kept testing him. I may have to go back and find that tape to see why they kept testing him. But I mean, this guy definitely has that skill set to sort of it translated through the rest of the season as well. But he pretty much put all of his tape into that one game. So that sort of says a little bit something too. That's sort of as to why he's sort of like being under the radar. Can he make that sustain across the entire season? That's the big thing that we're going to wait and see with Mitchell. But blazing speed, he's got the aggressiveness. Can he put it all together to rise up the boards? I think he can. Let's see if it happens here in 2023.
And the Colts take him with their 4th round pick that we get for Jonathan Taylor.
Let's see if that actually happens. Now I'm going to go to the Ivy Leagues, Tad. I'm going to talk about an
Love
offensive
it.
tackle for the University of Yale. Go Bulldogs. Kieran Amegaji. I'm pretty sure I'm saying that incorrectly. I'll figure out how to say it as we
Asking the
get
way
closer.
wrong dude.
I know I'm asking the wrong person here, but I'll figure out how to say it a lot better as we get closer to the draft season here. But just he anchored the offensive line here, Tad, for University of Yale, like I said, that led the Ivy Leagues in rushing yards and total offense. This guy was the starting left tackle for them. He was the first team all FCS for them as well. And I mean, just he could be just a dangerous prospect if he continues to build on that successful season that he had last year into this season. A lot of people are projecting him to go somewhere in that 3rd or 4th round. So, I mean, this is a guy that just, even though he's going to a small school as far as football is concerned in the Ivy Leagues at Yale, I think just with the talent that he has, protecting somebody's blind side for lots of these quarterbacks, I think a lot of people are going to be looking at that to see, like, can he make that transition from the college level to the NFL level? I think he has. He's got the good size. He has no problem getting out of his stance to get to the second level as well. So he's got that good blend of size as well as speed. So, I mean, yeah, watch out for this guy out of Yale. Could be a good difference maker.
Just remember, if you're watching someone's blind side, don't give royalties to your family.
Oh, gosh. I really thought we would avoid that topic. But All right. I'm just gonna blow by it. I'm gonna get to my last
That
prospect
was
here.
great. That was masterful.
The last prospect I'm gonna bring up here is Jason Henderson, the linebacker out of Old Dominion. Tad, he led the FBS in total tackles with 186. Now you look at that number, you're like, okay, that's pretty impressive. But when you look at the guy who came in second, that was Sean Dolak, the linebacker out of Buffalo. He had 147. So he absolutely set
Damn.
himself apart as
Damn.
far as being number one and number two with Sean Dolak. So, I mean, just he really possesses the instincts to play the position. He obviously was able to rack up a ton of stats for Old Dominion. He's going to come into the season with a lot of people scouting him as far as like, can he make that transition? Very similar to what I was talking about with a Mega G out of Yale. Can he make that transition going from a small school to the NFL level playing at Old Dominion? But he has the instincts. He's got the high level IQ. Let's just see if he can sort of continue that here in 2023. But there's another guy to sort of look out for. Jason Henderson, linebacker out of Old Dominion. So,
all right, real quick, rapid fire. Give me at least two guys, at least. And that's why I need to tell my students. That means no less than two, but possibly more.
okay.
Guys that you could see rising up boards. No explanation needed.
Michael Penix Jr. I mean, we look at the quarterback position.
Love
I
that
think
pick.
depending on the season that he has to put the injury concerns behind him. If he could do that, if he has a successful season, I like him to rise up the boards to be that number 3 quarterback possibly.
I was just notice that. Wow, that was synchronous right there. No, he is right now. As of now, he is my third favorite quarterback.
Another guy that I'm going to bring up is Damian. I even wrote it phonetically and I still said it wrong. Damian Chop Robinson, the defensive end edge rusher out of Penn State. I mean, very similar to Micah Parsons. He's just got a lot of raw talent. If he can refine that in this upcoming season, he's currently projected as sort of being a middle day 2 type of guy. But if he has a successful season, he could put up a season that Micah Parsons had in his final year at Penn State. This guy will shoot up the boards and he can end up being an end of the first round type of prospect. And the last guy that I want to bring up is Tyler Davis, the defensive tackle out of Clemson. Big body defender, very similar to Robinson, though, is that he's got a lot of raw skill. Can he refine that and become more perfectionist, like, just become a lot better of an all-around defender? Equally skilled at stopping the ball as far as the run game is concerned, as well as getting into the pass rushing lanes to stop the pass rush as well, but just needs to figure out his read and recognition skills a little bit better and getting the ball, getting off the snap a little bit better, too. But those are guys that I can see rising up boards for sure in this upcoming draft.
I cannot wait to relay that name. That was amazing. Well, I'll just say mine too, real quick, as well as AD Mitchell. He actually has a first name. AD is his nickname. I don't know how to pronounce his first name, but he is a transfer from Georgia to Texas, who should be the number 2 behind Worthy. So I think that is a name definitely worth looking out for. That a lot of people are like, oh, this guy could be good. And this one is more just morbid curiosity. Tyler Van Dyke. People forget he was getting first round. Miami, he was getting first round hype after he won freshman rookie of the year, whatever people call it, different things of the ACC. Last year he was terrible, but it was funny because last year everybody was like, "What's wrong with his accuracy?" It came out he had a pretty significant shoulder injury, and that obviously will affect your accuracy. So if Tyler Van Dyke, by the way, who's Miami's coach, do you know?
No idea.
Mario Cristobal.
Oh, so former Oregon coach, right?
Mm-hmm, exactly. So hence why Miami got him. It was just like, okay, there you go. So if Cristobal can finally get a system going and Van Dyke can stay healthy, don't be surprised if Van Dyke plays himself into the second round.
Could happen. So I know we sort of went through a lot of prospects here, Tab, but that was obviously what we talked about at the beginning of the episode. We're going to give you a lot of names. This was
a rough episode with a cough.
We gave you a lot of names. We went very surface level with a lot of these guys. As we sort of mentioned, we're going to go into the season, obviously watch a lot more tape on a lot of these guys, and obviously a lot of guys that we didn't get a chance to mention as well. So, I mean, this is just the beginning of the draft season, obviously with NFL season obviously kicking off in a couple of weeks, but the college football season is kicking off this weekend. And so, yeah, we're definitely in tune with both the NFL season as well as the college football season to got you covered on both fronts there. So we took a little bit of a quick detour here talking about college football here, Tad, but obviously our main goal.
You can only talk fantasy so often. In the preseason. Once the season gets started, we're good. But we just got. When is kickoff? September 9th?
That's September 7th.
7th. Ooh, 2 more days. 2 days earlier is what I meant.
Okay, sure.
2 days earlier than what I thought.
Oh, okay, got it. I was like, it's still a couple weeks away, buddy. Like, I mean,
We're getting close.
we're getting close. We definitely are getting close. But as mentioned, this was just a quick detour talking about some college football and the NFL draft, 2024 NFL draft. But we're jumping right back into the fantasy content for sure. We got you covered with all the great fantasy advice to get you prepared for all your NFL fantasy drafts. I know a lot of people draft during Labor Day, people drafting the weekend before. So, I mean, this is draft season now. So, yeah, make sure you're interacting with us. You see the ticker down below. Hit us up on all our social media handles. You got me at Otherside23. You got Tad Side 94. You got the show handle at The Decide Guys. Obviously on Instagram as well at The Decide Guys. So hit us up with all of your questions pertaining to the draft, talking about strategies, talking about after your draft is over. What do you think about your respective roster? We'll give your opinions. We'll think about trade advice. I mean, waiver advice. Everything that's going on. 100% we're here to help you win titles. That is the big thing that we want to stress here every single podcast episode. We want to help you win your titles, whichever league that you're playing in. We have advice for any league that you're playing in. I mean, me and Tad are playing in so many different leagues. We're playing in leagues together. We're playing in leagues separately. So, I mean, we have a lot of advice to give you. Make sure you're taking advantage of that. Make sure you subscribe to your podcast, whether that's on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. You listen right on the LFP Network website as well. So make sure you just hit subscribe. Always be up to date with our podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button so always up to date with our videos as well. And always make sure you're supporting our parent network, LFP Network. They're giving you a lot of great content. We talked about it. USC is kicking off this weekend. They're playing my alma mater, San Jose State. So there's going to be a lot of great content talking about that. But obviously, they got you covered with the UCLA Bruins as well. So they got you covered on the college level and the pro level with the Rams and the Chargers on the professional level. So make sure you support them with all the various social media channels, reading the website, subscribing to the podcast, anything and everything there. But guys, as mentioned, we're here to help you win fantasy titles. Make sure you interact with us. We'd love to interact with you. And to everybody who's already doing that, reading articles, listening to the episodes, watching us on YouTube, I mean, just anything and everything in between, guys, we really can't thank you enough.
For the love of God, man, breathe.
It's a lot to get to.
Jesus, it's like listening to an auctioneer. It's impressive. Don't get me wrong, it is impressive.
Okay. Yeah, good.
It's pretty good. So yeah, like Amir said, obviously we have plenty more fantasy football stuff headed your way. So do not worry about that, especially with draft season coming up. We are subscribed, I guess. Or we have joined so many leagues. I'm probably gonna miss some drafts because there's just no possible way. There's no overlap. But you know what? Those are the sacrifices we make for what we love. The only last thing I wanted to say was if you liked our episode, if you're like me and you love talking draft as the college football season goes on, this is not a one-time thing. We will drop in, not often, but every now and then we will drop in with, okay, how is the... Yeah, exactly. Like, it's just, the sprinkles on the Sunday. We will come in every now and then and discuss. Unfortunately, look, there will be major injuries. I don't wish it on anyone, but it's going to happen. How does that affect so-and-so's stock? How's that going? Draft order. Like we said, no one's ever, or I shouldn't say ever, but very rarely do people predict who the first team getting the first overall pick is going to be. So stuff like that. We're going to have fun with it. So if you want more draft stuff, feel free to send us ideas, but also do not worry because we will keep checking in periodically. Want to put emphasis on that throughout the fall with the latest draft and college football news. So as always, everyone, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching, and please stay safe.